Look at this little guy. It's like somebody took my Fractal Define S and just shrunk it down. Of course, hopefully they took the parts out of it first, because that would be unfortunate. Hello everybody and welcome to Tech Uploaded. I am Chris as always, and today I'm taking a look at the Fractal Design Define Nano S. So yeah, the Define S nanoized, because that's a word that I just made up now. And that is really what it is. It lives up to its namesake. It really looks like a miniaturized version of the Define S. I mean, it's got basically the exact same ports and layout along the top, along the front. The vents are the same. It even still has the moduvent system on top, except that's a little bit changed. We'll take a look at that shortly. It's really everything that case was, except it's designed for ITX. I mean, that's essentially it. And I really am excited about this case because I'm going to be doing a rebuild of the home theater PC. And more than likely, that will already be up by the time you're watching this, unless you're watching this within the first few days of this being posted. So I'm going to actually link it in the description below as soon as it is available. But I was really excited about this particular case because right now I'm using a BitPhoenix case for my home theater PC, and the graphics card just barely fits in there, and it is tight. I've had cables fall into the fans on it a couple of times. I've had to really get out of the way. Really, it's just not designed for having an Asus Strix 970 in there. So this case, on the other hand, is pretty much set up exactly for that, as well as water cooling galore, lots of air cooling, and pretty much, anything you can really imagine that you'd really want to do with an ITX build. So first, let's look at the box real quick. So the box is your typical box from Fractal. You've got a look at what the case looks like on the front, and then turning it around, you have all of the information that you could possibly want along the back as far as features and things like that go. The website, which I'll link in the description, is also extremely helpful with lots of information. And then inside the case, you get the little accessories kit with all of your screws and cable ties and little mounting things for your reservoir if you want to go with water cooling, and then of course the user's manual. So with all that said, enough chat. Let's take a look at this thing a little bit more up close and actually run through all of the features kind of as quickly as possible here. The Define Nano S is definitely an interesting case. It has so many of the design elements of the full-size Define S that it almost kind of plays tricks with your mind when you first take it out of the box. I mean, it essentially is just a miniature Define S, and that's pretty much what Fractal was going for. They wanted to build a powerful, silent ITX-based system so that you could build a powerful gaming PC, or in my case, a powerful home theater PC in a smaller form factor. So the first thing to do here is just pop off the side panel real quick and take a look inside the case, and you can see it has that same open layout from the Define S, so you have plenty of room in here for air and water cooling, and that same sound dampening technology, or properties if you will, also carries over through the use of the high quality industrial grade foam that is included on both the side panel and the top. Like I said, this is essentially the Define S just in a smaller form factor. So it is designed for those ITX motherboards, but with a lot of room for expansion and flexibility. So getting a little bit closer, taking a look inside here, the first thing you'll notice is there's a generous amount of space beyond just where you're going to mount that ITX motherboard. You do have the standoffs there for the board already in place. And I'm actually gonna pull up a diagram very quickly here so you can actually take a look at that. And you can kind of see, looking at that, the amount of space that they've created here is very generous. You have the ability to mount 120, a 240, or 280 millimeter radiator in the front, or 120 and a 240 millimeter radiator at the top. And then you can also do a 120 millimeter radiator at the bottom or the rear. However, in the windowed version, you can't actually use a rear radiator due to the panel being a little bit larger in size. And even better, you have pre-drilled holes and a multi-bracket, which is along the bottom here and can be moved around a little bit through some screws actually on the bottom of the case for your reservoir and your water pump. Now, GPU support in this case is actually one of the huge benefits for me, and because I'm going to be putting a large graphics card in here, you can actually fit up to a 315 millimeter GPU in here if you use just a front case fan. If you do use a radiator, you're going to have a little bit less space just due to the fact that the radiator is going to take up a little more room up front. And ATX power supplies up to 160 millimeters deep also fit here along the bottom. And you can also fit very large air coolers in here, up to 162 millimeters if you have the solid version of the case. And again, that windowed panel being just a little bit beefier, you're down to 160 millimeters if you have the windowed version like I do. Now, taking a look at the side panel from the other side of the case, the less interesting side, especially in the windowed version, you can see when you remove this panel that you do have that generous sound dampening foam in place there, just like, again, on the Define S. And this really does help reduce the noise of mechanical drives, fans, and pumps, and what have you. And again, if you have the non-windowed version, this foam is also on the other panel, and you will also find it on the ModuVent technology that is along the top that we'll get to in a minute. All right, well, now taking a look at the, I guess, less sexy side of the case, you can see that you do have that same cable tie system in place that you had on the Define S as well. You're seeing a theme here, and that just helps make cable management, well, more manageable. And then moving up a little bit, you can see you have one vertical hard drive plate, and that's right behind that right panel. This is obviously for your mechanical drives or what have you. And then you have two dedicated SSD plates right behind that motherboard tray. And if you don't install a water pump, that multi-bracket we talked about earlier, that can be used elsewhere to mount a 3.5 or a 2.5 inch drive. And you can also fit a 2.5 inch drive in the empty space below the vertical hard drive plate. So you got a lot of flexibility here. And the thumb screws for the hard drive and SSD brackets, as well as the side panels, are captive, so they're not going to accidentally fall out and never be seen again. All right, now moving along to the actual top of the case here, let's first point out that you have two USB 3.0 ports, a power button, reset switch, headphone, and microphone jack. But then kind of scooting back from that a little bit, you're going to actually encounter that ModuVent technology again, except this time instead of having three different separate little panels that can come off, the whole panel just comes off. So if you want to have additional airflow, if you have a radiator up here or whatnot, then you can pop this thing off. Otherwise, you can leave it on, and you do have the benefit of having some additional sound dampening as well by leaving that ModuVent panel actually in place. So that is nice, especially in my case, in a home theater PC application. Taking a look at the very rear of the case, you can see that this is pretty much what you would expect. You have that area for a 120 millimeter fan, the cutout for the I/O shield, and two expansion slots for your motherboard's ITX PCIe slot, and then of course the area for your power supply. Overall, this case actually has 6 fan positions and includes 2 Fractal Design Dynamic Series retail fans. At the front, you of course have 2 120 and 140 millimeter mounts with 1 fan already there. Along the top, you have the ability to mount 2 120 or 140 millimeter fans. And in the rear position, you have a pre-installed 120 millimeter fan. And then you do have an area along the bottom for a 120 millimeter fan as well. The nice thing, dust filters are also included along the PSU area at the bottom, extending back to where you might possibly also have a fan down there. And then you do have another dust filter just inside that front panel, which does pop off fairly easily, but I did find if you're not careful, it does kind of take that bottom dust filter out with it, so you might want to remove that first before you pop off that front panel. And then finally, let's get some specifications on size out of the way here. This bad boy comes in at 203 millimeters wide by 344 millimeters high by 412 millimeters deep, and that does take into account feet, protrusions, screws, and all that stuff, real world dimensions, if you will. And then this thing is going to MSRP for basically anywhere between $60 and $70. Shop around, see what kind of deal you can find, and of course the price does vary a little bit based on windowed or non-windowed version. So there you have it, the Define Nano S. And I tell you what, I'm excited to use this case. Like I said, I really am pumped to get that 970 in here where it actually has room to breathe. It has room to grow if I want to put an even bigger graphics card in there. Say I want to put a 1080 in my Broadwell E-build and move the 1070 over here. I've got room to do that. I've got cooling. I've got lots of options if I want to expand how I want to cool this thing. I am going to go air cooling, but if I wanted to go water cooling, I could. I could even do a custom loop in here if I wanted to. So lots and lots of expandability, and that's really exciting with this case. And I gotta admit, I'm a fanboy of Fractal cases. They're easy to build in and they're quiet. And that makes this just really a good candidate for me for my new home theater PC build. Plus, I'll have a Fractal case in the office and I'll have a Fractal case in the family room. And the kind of OCD part of me, it likes that. That just feels right. So yeah. So, of course, all of this sounds wonderful in theory, but the true test will come when I actually do the build. And like I said earlier in the video, that will be in the description as soon as it's done. It should be very shortly after this video goes live. So that's going to tell the tale as far as what building is like in this case. But after having done the previous home theater PC build, I have pretty high hopes that it's going to be far, far easier to do in this particular case. But I will get the full experience of the full Nano S experience once I go through with that. And like I said, I'm excited to do so. So make sure to check that out as well. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and click on that subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, those are Tech Uploaded. And you can follow me on Facebook. Join the Facebook community, as they say, at facebook.com/techuploaded. And finally, if you have something that you want to email me, you can do that by shooting me an email at Gmail at techuploaded@gmail.com. And you know the drill. Don't be a stranger. Check back soon. Microphone out of the frame. Yeah. Whew, it's hot in here. I need to turn on the air conditioning, but it's so freaking loud.